Hello everyone, this is Rexer from the YouTube channel NotQuiteThereGaming, and today I will be bringing you another Warframe video. This time it is a Loki build, and it is the one true Loki build that you should be using, and if you're not using it, you're stupid. No, I'm just kidding. So this is a build I like to use for Loki, but obviously you can use your own if you want. And there are some pretty good other options as well, which I will be getting into a little bit. First of all, a little bit about Loki. Now, Loki is a bit harder to define than, say, Nova or Nyx. I suppose the best comparison I could draw to other multiplayer games and such would be that Loki is kind of a rogue type Warframe. He deals in stealth and general chaos. He likes to melee, but it's situational how good his melee is as an option versus using just ranged weapons out of stealth. The main downside of melee being that you have to get close to enemies. That's the only problem. His damage with melee weapons is phenomenal. And with the Galatine right here, I frequently get pretty big crits on Infested, for example. I can get up to 42k crits with him, which is just... oh my god, yes. Now, moving on before I nerd out too hard over the Galatine and Loki, we're gonna get right into the build. First of all, I use only one forma for this build, gave him a tactical polarity, because as you know, I love tactical polarities. I suggest that you go ahead and give him two polarities, another tactical polarity, because tactical polarities are awesome. But I also wanted to mention something that I haven't mentioned in my other videos, namely that all these builds obviously include an Orokin reactor. The Orokin reactor doubles the maximum mod capacity from the base mod capacity of the Warframe from 30 to 60. Now, the first thing that we will be slotting is Energy Siphon, of course. Not the best of auras, but certainly the best for a lot of Warframes and for a lot of situations that those Warframes are used in. I actually also like Rifle Lamp. Sometimes Steel Charge is nice to have. And Enemy Sense, the aura counterpart of Enemy Radar, the aura counterpart of Enemy Sense, is also a nice choice sometimes. But in this case, as opposed to the other two builds that I've posted on my YouTube channel, Energy Siphon is not a little nudge in the right direction. For Loki, it can go as far as to completely fuel his invisibility. By a combination of power duration mods and power efficiency, the seemingly small regenerative capability of Energy Siphon can lead to actually 100% or near to 100% discount, if you will, for invisibility. That is, invisibility lasts long enough for just the regeneration from Energy Siphon to give you back the energy that you used to become invisible. And invisibility is a big part of the way I like to use Loki. And so, first mod, we're going to slot his first ability. Decoy is his first ability, and it's a pretty good ability. It's a little bit hard to find at the moment. Come on, cooperate. Okay, there you are. Decoy is a useful ability to have at pretty much any time. It suffers from the fact that the health of the actual decoy does not increase at higher levels of mission difficulty or such. But if you position it right, it can do you a lot of good, and it can do your team a lot of good, which is, I wouldn't say the only way that Loki can synergize with his team, but probably the biggest, the foremost way that Loki can synergize with his team. Now, Loki himself doesn't actually need decoy that often because of the next ability that we will be slotting, which is more or less his trademark, invisibility. Invisibility, as you might think, turns Loki completely invisible. Well, not well, you know, Predator outline levels of invisibility. A little bit of shimmer because it's cool. Also because it would make him very hard to spot for teammates if he were completely invisible. Awkward. Invisibility causes your sentinel to stop firing, which is a shame because sentinels can do a lot of damage, especially carrier. But it's a nice trade-off for the fact that it makes you untargetable by enemies. Now, I say untargetable because you can be shot, but enemies won't do it on purpose. That's pretty much the way invisibility works. Enemies won't react to you in any way, but they will react to your teammates, and they will react to the pod and other things that are visible. And if you get in the way of that, well, sucks to be you. Another thing that you need to watch out for, even while invisible, are toxic ancients, because while getting shot in a crossfire is probably your teammate's fault, let's face it. Getting close to a toxic ancient and dying because of its toxic aura is your own fault. So watch out for that. Otherwise, invisibility, through the use of power duration mods and power efficiency mods, like I was saying, will be boosted enough to pretty much be kept on all the time. The next ability that we will be slotting is Switch Teleport. Switch Teleport is a cheap teleport that, as you might imagine, switches you for your target, so you can't use it unless you have a target. This synergizes very nicely with decoy, because you can switch with your decoy. So if you want to teleport somewhere, you first set a decoy up at that location and then you switch with it. This basically gives Loki the ability to teleport more or less where he wants, as long as he can see it. Otherwise, Switch Teleport is a situational skill. It's not necessary, and if you want, you can certainly go ahead and replace it with maybe something more defensive, or take one of the mods that will be slotting in the non-polarized slots, put it here for just a little increase in cost, and slot some more powerful defensive mods. It's a good option to slot it out. I would keep decoy in no matter what, though. And if you do slot it out, you're gonna be missing out on some fun, though. So if you don't have to, I would suggest leaving it in anyway. The ultimate for Loki is Radial Disarm. Now, Radial Disarm is situationally brilliant and situationally kinda useless. It depends on what faction you're facing and the way you enhance Loki. Because of the way we are going to be enhancing Loki in this build, I chose not to slot Radial Disarm because we will be adding another Orokin Vault mod, which has a trade-off, and the trade-off is reduced power range. Radial Disarm functions in a radius around Loki, and because we will be slotting that mod that reduces range, Radial Disarm's range will become next to useless, sadly. Because Loki has invisibility and decoy and weapons, the loss of Radial Disarm isn't that major, but of course you might want to look into that if you want to experiment with other builds. Now, the first set of enhancements I want to do for Loki is power duration, as I said, for invisibility. We will be slotting quite a lot of power duration mods, starting with continuity, which is the basic power duration increasing mod. Pretty straightforward. It's a nice little, I say little because Orc and Vault mods usually give big increases. It's a step in the right direction, and I want to give Loki's invisibility the biggest duration possible. Why do I want to give him the biggest duration possible for invisibility? Because Loki is only vulnerable in two conditions. One is crossfire and incidental fire, or the toxic ancient aura and getting shot at because the enemies are shooting at someone else. And two is when he is in the middle of recasting invisibility. So I like to maximize the duration invisibility stays in effect, so I can minimize the time that he stays exposed while having to recast. Okay, so the next mod for duration increasing will be narrow-minded. Narrow-minded is an Orokin Vault only mod. And it's the mod with the trade-off that I was telling you about. It isn't maxed out, sadly. It's very expensive to max out, but I suggest that if you want to go hardcore into this build, you invest straight away into maximizing this mod. It's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. That is, not for the amount of power cores that you put into it. It's gonna suck to get it to max, but it's gonna give you a lot of bang for your buck, polarity points wise. And there is one more mod that we want to be slotting here, and that's Constitution. Constitution gives a small, comparably small increase, like continuity. It's also nice because it has knockdown recovery. Knockdown recovery being slightly different from knockdown resistance because it makes you get up faster. It's nice to have the secondary effect, but as I said, I want to maximize invisibility's duration as much as possible, and this is a step in the right direction. Next, we want to deal with Loki's power efficiency. So, the easiest way to start on that road is get the Essence Loki helmet. It decreases armor rating, but Loki's base health, as you can actually see right here, is 75 at level 0. At level 30, it's 225, I believe. Shields are the same. Armor is okay-ish, you might think, but it actually isn't nearly enough to save him. His health and shields are so low. Luckily, his power, maximum stored power, is pretty nice, which synergizes well with the fact that we will be using him ability heavy. The next step into maximizing or improving Loki's power efficiency is Streamline. Streamline, the go-to mod for power efficiency since mods were invented. You can change Streamline around for fleeting expertise, and that will actually put invisibility over that magical edge where it becomes basically free or completely subsidized by energy siphon. The downside, of course, be that fleeting expertise fleeting expertise reduces duration of skills, which is not something I want to be doing personally, for the reasons I've said before. Otherwise, it would be a great idea, and I encourage you to add another forma, add another tactical slot, and experiment. See if you like fleeting expertise in or streamline in. It's up to you, but personally I prefer streamline in because I want to minimize the amount of time that Loki isn't invisible. And with use of power pickups, it's pretty easy to keep him invisible all the time anyway. Next, we want to be slotting enemy sense, because you know I love enemy sense. Let's not dance around it. Enemy sense is gonna happen. And especially for Loki, it's a requirement for Loki because he is so brittle. He needs a good defensive edge. In his case, enemy sense is very much a defensive enhancement. He needs to know where enemies are, and if he needs to go invisible, he has to go invisible. Because incidental fire, crossfire and such, it won't bring him down immediately unless you're playing at very high levels. But actually getting shot will vaporize Loki pretty fast. It won't be instantaneous at low and mid-range levels, but you're gonna hate it. So you want enemy sense to know when you have to go invisible, and you want to go invisible as soon as enemy sense tips you off that you need to do that for your own health. Speaking of which, shit. Sorry. Next we have Rush, because Loki is actually the fastest Warframe in the entire game right now. You're gonna say, well, if he's fastest, why do we need to enhance it? Because faster is more fun. Feel free to call me out on that logic, but I'm gonna stick to it. And lastly, we want to be slotting Equilibrium. Equilibrium is a little difficult to get, but initially I got it from an event, personally, but I think you can get it from the Orokin Derelict boss now. You're gonna need the proper key for the boss run specifically, and a little bit of luck, maybe a lot of luck. It's worth it though. And for Loki, the reason why it's worth it is he picks up a lot of energy, obviously, to keep invisibility fueled. And you want to have a way to heal him, because as I've said, pretty much the only ways to harm him when he's invisible are crossfire and incidental aura damage, as well as the little visibility window. And you want to have a reliable means of healing that damage, because even while he's awesomely invisible all the time, he might get whittled down, and in some cases he sadly does reliably get whittled down. So you want to combat that with equilibrium. Of course, a nice little bonus is that when you're picking up health orbs, you're picking up energy, and energy is fueling your defense, so it's a win-win. You definitely don't need it maxed out, but if you want to go all out, go for it. It's just gonna cost you a lot. That's all the mods I have slotted. As you can see, I will need one more mod energy, which I have to max out narrow-minded, and two more for equilibrium, but it's pretty difficult. You can go ahead and do another forma, and I recommend that. And experiment, as I said, with taking out switch teleport and putting in a defensive focused mod. This is the build I like to use. And invisibility not only is a great defensive option, but as I was saying at the start and trying to nerd out, it gives a bonus to melee, namely 50% extra damage to normal melee swings and 100% extra damage to heavy melee swings. That is the charge attack for melee weapons. And especially with the Galatine modded for charge attacks, it can get pretty ludicrous. Even so, you're gonna wanna have a nice ranged weapon with Loki, and practicing a lot to not get caught in that incidental crossfire. Hit apply, and that's Loki for you. Rogue, he's fun to play and very fast, and he can crit really high. So, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video for whatever reason, any reason at all, please feel free to subscribe, tell your friends about my channel, tell your mom about my channel, tell your dad about my channel, tell your cousin about my channel. Get them to play Warframe, because it's awesome. And like, comment, actually do any of that stuff that you want to do. But subscribe anyway. This has been Rexer from the YouTube channel NotQuiteThereGaming, signing off.